All right, hello, and welcome back to Twin Cities Territory, the Minnesota Twins podcast here on the Foul Territory Network. I am Zack Pierce, the Athletics' second best of two alpine skiing writers. Also, a longtime Twins fan, former Minnesota editor here at the Athletic. Dan Hayes joins us as always, the Athletics' Minnesota Twins beat writer, and also with us again, Tyler Duffey, longtime major leaguer and former Minnesota Twins pitcher. Guys, the Twins are 3-6 after a third straight one win, two loss series to start the season. I have to ask you, are we still in the 4.3% club?
Man,
Maintain, maintaining.
yes, there's still signs. They need some offense badly. It's a little rough. Fourth game yesterday where they have scored one run this season. And they're mid-pack in runs scored, actually. They've 38 runs scored, but they've done all their scoring in five other games. Of those four one-run games, three of them were winnable. I would say Saturday night, which was maybe the worst weather I've ever seen a game played in. That was not a winnable game. They lost 7-1. But every other game, yesterday, last Monday in Kansas City, and opening day, all were winnable games. No offense showing up, and that's shown up quite a bit early on. We've seen it, and it's something they're going to have to get going. They have six regulars right now with an OPS under 600, and those guys all have at least 23 at bats. So there's some good performers on the offense, and they need to get Byron Buxton and Luke Keeschel going to keep that hope meter up.
The 4.3%, a reference to the Athletics Hope-O-Meter poll that we talked about last week, in which 4.3% of fans said they were optimistic about the season. Dan, you mentioned the offense. They were actually tied for fifth in runs scored going into Saturday's game after having, as he said, an outburst of runs. The rest of their offensive stats were sort of on one side of mediocre or the other.
Yeah.
And then came this weekend just an abysmal couple of games, Saturday and Sunday. By the way, it's Monday, April 6th. Usually I say that at the top. 6 hits and 62 at bats in those two games. Matt Wallner had a whale of a weekend with 9 strikeouts and 13 at bats, but also provided the only run on Sunday. Then had the base running blunder as well. So cherry picking any couple of games is obviously tough in a long season, but overall, certainly some concerns about the offense after what we just saw those first two games.
Yeah, it's you look at it, and I mean, again, I think everything goes through Byron Buxton and Luke Keeschel. Friday night, Byron Buxton got hit, scary moment in the opener, and left, but was okay. But I mean, he's got a 405 OPS, I think it is, and Luke Keeschel's is like 550, somewhere in that range. These are guys that are expected to have like 880 OPSs, get on base a lot. That will loosen things up when they're on base. Saw Keeschel come out of the game and go straight to the batting cage yesterday for some extra swings, because we get into the clubhouse probably about 20 minutes after the game, and I saw him walk in with his bat at that point, just coming in from the field. So, he had a monster spring. He will get going, but they need it, and it's frankly the last two games were pretty boring. So that was a very winnable game on Sunday. They had Tampa Bay came in 2-4 just like the Twins. The Twins beat them on Friday and beat them behind Rice graduate Tristan Gray's grand slam, and
That's right.
but Tampa Bay was susceptible, and the Twins had a second time where they had a rubber match where they could win the series, and they didn't 2 Sundays in a row. So they need to figure it out.
Yeah,
Duff, what you got?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been tough. Simeon had a great game. Great start. What he went 6 2/3, pitched in the seventh inning or whatever it was, and you're playing extra innings. That was yesterday, right? They went extras.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you said, we're giving ourselves chances. It's not a lack of competitiveness at this point. It's literally like, hey, we just need like 3 runs instead of 1. And that's back to the guys at the beginning. You talked about Buck. I still think him going to the WBC was great. You're never going to not go, but I think in my eyes, he missed out on a lot of at bats he could have had at camp, because he wasn't a starter every game. He's a defensive sub a couple times, things like that. So it's tough to get going, and now you plug right back into a big league game where you're the guy in the lineup. Like, it's not like you're in the middle of the all-star lineup anymore. It's like, there's Byron Buxton. He's circled on everyone's card.
Yeah.
Going up ready to get him out and then worry about everyone else. And, it's a tough spot to be, but it's also 38 degrees in April. It's we're now in April. So it's I think it'll even out at the end. These young guys who are making their first opening day rosters and all that stuff, like, as the smoke clears and dust settles, I think guys will start really getting into their swing of things and their routine. Like you said, getting in the cage post game, like, sometimes that's all it takes is that one time and it clicks, and then you look up and a guy's on fire. So it is going one win in each series to start the year isn't what you want, but within the gray area of that, it's like a lot of one-run games, and those are coin flips sometimes. So maybe in this series, maybe they'll come our way. You never know.
They have an actual batting practice today. They have an actual chance to get in the cage before it's a night game. So get some work in. Yeah, I don't know if the ball's going to be flying. Man, you mentioned that 38 degrees. Feels like the wind chill on Saturday when Mick Abel took the mound. 24 degrees. Mick Abel's from Oregon. Bet that was fun, even so.
Yeah, I noticed the thick turtleneck. I was like, it must be pretty cold to bust that one out.
Yeah.
Tyler, you mentioned last week that the first couple of weeks are just kind of tough to get into, read too much into, just because of game times are strange, days off are strange. At what point when you're having a start like this, does some concern start to set in if things don't turn around?
It's there for everyone individually. Shelty, he did such a great job with us when, he was a bench coach when I was there with two separate managers. And what I loved was he was so good at taking the pulse of the players, like daily. Dan, I'm sure you saw this, you were around.
Yeah.
He was one kind of doing the rounds in the locker room, talking to everybody, how you doing today, how you feel, really good about getting with the relievers. How are we hanging today? Like, can you get one, you get an inning, things like that. And, he kept it loose even when maybe it wasn't loose. And, I kind of used the joke, but he'd come around for like a big series and he'd say, you nervous? Or, you sure you're ready for tonight, kind of thing? Like pregame, the Yankees are in town, the big beast is here. And so it was, stuff like that to keep it loose and keep that perspective of like, tomorrow's game is already gone. Can't change it. And so now it's just move on, take your next step forward. And especially with the right guys in that clubhouse, Byron's been through it 10 years now, officially. And, there's a lot of guys who've had all their struggles and they all know how to get through it. Now it's just, settling in. We're kind of getting past the craziness of opening weekend and series and all the fireworks and flyovers. And now it's like games at 6:40, it's going to start at 6:40, and that's all that matters. And, for the next, month or so, just got to keep our heads down, just work through it.
Well, we have a lot more to get to on today's show, but first, we have our first word from our sponsor, which we will step aside, assuming Dan can figure out how to work the controls.
Drum roll, please.
Not funny.
With over 35 million downloads, what is the number one rated ticketing app, Todd Father?
It's simple, man. SeatGeek, as we know, man. They have a lot of things that helps you out along the way. They have green dots meaning good and red dots meaning bad, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10 showing you, Scott, how good the seats are. And sometimes you want to sit in the nosebleeds, or sometimes you want to sit in really good seats. And Scott, you know the code, right?
Yeah, I do. And also I know that you always like a good deal.
Always.
So SeatGeek helps you out all the time with that. They also help you out with the exclusive FT code, which is Territory 10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code TERRITORY10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app, and you can have that code automatically added to your account so that you can use it later. There are regular season MLB games going on right now. There are hot tickets across the country, so make sure you go to SeatGeek. They will take care of you.
All right, we're back. Dan, you mentioned the weather. You mentioned, or we talked about the fan apathy going into the season. opening weekend at Target Field is now in the books, and curious as the only one of the three of us who was there this weekend, what the vibe was like and what your impressions were from just the atmosphere and the fans on the opening weekend.
Friday was great. Opening day, people showed up. It was announced 36,000. There's no way it was 36,000. That's the amount of tickets they distribute or sell. And I know somebody here who had 4 tickets to go and decided better against the weather. But I mean, they distributed tickets, 36,000. I would bet it was more like 30 were in the park. They sold 24,000 $2 beers in pregame. The power outage was absolutely wild. I mean, you're just looking for an omen, and that's not a great one to start the season. About 80 minutes before first pitch, about 40 minutes before all the ceremonies are started, the lights just go out. And it cued a bunch of really crappy jokes on social media about not paying the power bill, but it was actually a neighborhood thing. There were about, 2,000 customers. There were 1,500 customers affected by, according to Excel, along with 30,000 at the ballpark. They didn't mention that, but they got it back up. It went good. The team decided to extend the beer sales into the second inning because they knew fans had kind of lost out on a chance to do it. I thought that was a great move. I think fans had a great time. And then they were terrible the first 3 innings. They were held hitless. Bailey Ober kind of struggled, but the 3 runs, they're down 3-0. They come back. They take the 7-inning out or 7-run outburst in the 7th. It was a great game. After that, the crowds were sort of disappointing, but also this is April, and you always have to remember that April crowds are going to suck. They have 17 home games in April this year, and that's I think we've already seen the numbers are down a little bit. We were keeping track, and somewhere around 2,700 to 3,000 people down from last year's first 3 games. We know it's going to be like that. The Hope-O-Meter is 4%, and by the way, Tom Pohlad knows what the Hope-O-Meter is. I asked him in the pregame dugout. I was like, "Hey, there was a poll about fan optimism." He said, "Oh, you mean the Hope-O-Meter?" He said, "You don't think I read that?" And I asked, "Was it surprising?" He said, "Surprising, no, but it was jarring." And he knows what they're up against. So I want to ask you, Zach, because I think you used to be a diehard Twins fan. Now you have children, 7 and 4. I think you fall more in the casual fan category. You had tickets for Friday. I would not have taken my 4-year-old to 38 degrees and then rain. But say it was 60 degrees. Is this team doing enough to win you over as a fan? What do you need to see?
Well, I should clarify. I did have tickets. We talked about this in the first show or second show. I got them from TC Bear.
Or a guy pretending to be TC Bear.
Yes, or a guy pretending to be TC Bear.
Mayor.
Yeah. And, kudos to the Twins for, if you can't sell them, at least they're trying to get people to the ballpark anyway. And what an awesome gesture to get free tickets. And the only reason we didn't use them is because we had just gotten back from Palm Springs the night before. Kids are tired and out of control. And then neither of them has been to a baseball game before. And I just wasn't sure that fatigued after a trip in 40-degree weather was the time to do it, because I want them to go back someday.
Let's bundle up.
Yeah. I think I'm into sports in general because of the Twins, because they won 2 World Series when I was a kid. I got into it with my mom. I remember watching 91. I don't remember 87. I cashed in all my clout at my previous employer to get tickets to that All-Star game above my head in 2014, and I took my mom. I would desperately love to have that connection with my kids through sports, and I don't really frankly care how good the team is if I can make that happen. But I do think that it's tough to say. It's tough to put all the attendance woes on apathy and anger right now, just given the weather and the fact that it's so early in the season. And Tyler, we were talking off air, and you said even family doesn't go to games like this sometimes because it's so cold. Yeah.
I mean, when it's cold, and then it's raining or snowing for that matter. And it's like, especially if you get, like you said, you got little kids. It's like, you only got an hour before they start losing it to begin with. And then you're going to put them in the cold and everything else. And, it's part of it, but it's also the most beautiful summer, atmosphere you have. So it's like, it's a huge give and take, You know, the old saying everyone in Minnesota says, you know, oh, but the summers are great. They are. You just got to get to the summer.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Justin Morneau, like, who loved hitting at the Metrodome, right? Loved hitting at the Metrodome,
Right.
and didn't necessarily love hitting at Target Field. Said the same exact thing. He's like, I'll take this any day. He played in the bag. I mean, Zach, you've been to both. Like, the atmosphere is just significantly different. I never got to go to Target Field, but I've been to the Trop. I've been indoors plenty, Arizona, Houston.
Right.
There's something about being like, I can't imagine how much different, like, the first time you walked into Target Field, even though you were probably freezing. But I mean, what, like,
it was the second game ever. I couldn't get tickets to the first game. It was too hot an item, and it was pretty nice as I remember that day.
Yeah, it was. I actually do.
Yeah. But yes, quite cool. I think I totally agree. If they were still playing in the dome, I don't know that I would be inclined to want to go on a nice June day and sit inside. Like, I think that aspect of it is great, and I don't. To your point about me being more of a casual fan, I don't really care if they win or lose when I go, you know, because I'm only going to go to a couple games a year. It's more about just the experience of being there, and it's a great way to spend a summer day for sure. Anybody who is staying away and because they're pissed off at the poll ads, frustrated that they can't put a winner on the field, like, I don't blame you. Like, that's it's not cheap to go, especially if you're talking about a family, 4 kids. Like, I like, it's still the cheapest ticket in town of the major men's sports for sure, but it's to each their own on that for sure. And I think, you know, like, any new season, I'm always willing to open up my mind and be surprised if the team is unexpectedly good. It has happened a few times in the last 20 years where, you know, there's been pretty low expectations, and I think Tyler, you were on one of those teams, and so, you know, like. And also, I don't know. Ask Yankees fans how much spending money guarantees winning. Yeah. So it's like, whatever kind of fan you want to be, I don't begrudge you for it. But for me, it's more about, like, I would just love to have a space to bond with my kids at some point, and I'm just waiting for the right time to do that. So
the experience of going to the game is what's fun. You know, it's, you get there, if you get there early, you watch some BP. Like, you can spend the whole day there really, and then by the end of it, you know. Half the time the kids don't know who won or lost anyways, you know, and if that's what you're investing in is a win, like, then you're in the wrong place, because, you know, 162 games, things go a lot of different directions.
Yeah. No, I think the casuals will continue to come, because it's when we get into this summer, I mean, I just, the sense of community that was at the ballpark there today was great, and Minnesota had a hard winter. So, like, it's I think people are going to want to come out in that regard. The diehards, they want to be proven, and I get that, and they see that payroll, and they know that $30 million is not even on the roster right now between Pablo and Lopez and Carlos Correa. That's tough when the number is 105. There's a lot of young talent, and that can definitely, you know, you look at it, all the guys like the Wallners, the bunch of the young pitchers, Luke Keyshaw, Brooks Lee, they're all still making a little bit more than the minimum salary. You know, they're because their service time is so low. So that skews the roster, the numbers. But the Twins only spent a little bit, and it's $60 million down from a couple years ago, and people are having a tough time overlooking that. I get that. I do. So this team has to win them back by the time May and June rolls around. The team is going to have to, like, the fight is there. The competitiveness, I feel like, is there. But they need to start converting. Having 2 straight Sundays where you had the rubber match, where you had a shot, and you were in both those games the whole way, coming up empty. They need to convert. You don't get those opportunities over and over and over before it starts snowballing the wrong direction. And if it snowballs the wrong direction, you know, not that there's as many guys as there were last year to trade away, but we've seen what happens when things go the wrong direction. You don't want that to be the case, because you might drive away more Twins fans with another sell-off at the deadline.
Yeah, winning cures all at the end of the day.
Yeah,
even if it's just.
Oh, the Reds owner, and I struggle. I can't remember his name, but a couple years ago, the Reds fans were livid because he essentially said, "Where else are they going to go?" And
right, yeah. You gonna go watch another game?
But like knowing that they could win, and their attendance has rebounded as they've gotten good again with Ellie De La Cruz and talented players on that field, and so we'll see what the how this pans out. It's way too early because again, April just skews the numbers so bad. It's crazy that the Twins have almost 20%, like 20-ish% of their home schedule in April.
Yeah, that's poor planning on anybody's part.
Growing up, or maybe just maturing, I don't know, has made me completely flip on fair weather fans. I used to hate fair weather fans when I was like suffering through 10-win Timberwolves seasons, and then like they draft Kevin Garnett. All of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh, I love sure you do." Now I totally get it. It's just like life is busy, man. Like we all have things to do. I wish I had the free time to sit and watch a 3-hour game every night. But so like, yeah, people will come, Tyler, like you said, when the winning returns, and when it does, it'll be fun. It's a amazing place to be when it's full and people care about what's going on in front of us.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there's I would hope a little turnout for this series. Just the Tigers are in town. You got Cy Young, big free agent signed. Verlander's on the IL, but like that's going to be a fun series no matter what. Whoever you match up with, like it's going to be a dogfight. And those are the series, especially during the year. You go into Detroit now, like there was no fans there a while back, and now it's a packed house, and hopefully for Target Field's sake, it drives a little thing too, because that's it's a good team. That's a potential what if if all these first rounders for the Twins kind of start to click, like that's basically what Detroit had happen, and that's all it takes. A few of your guys that you put some money into, they figure it out quick. Like
hey, Duff,
you're building up.
I wanted to ask you this: that 24 degrees, that chill factor there.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody was describing to me that when you're in the bullpen, there's all kinds of heaters. It's actually very nice in there.
Yeah.
Tell me the blast when you hit that outfield door, but it's also then what does pitching in that weather do? Because there's people who played in high school and college, but I'm guessing a lot of our audience has not done that. And if I was, I'm not gonna pick that day to go outside and throw a baseball around myself. No. So what's it like?
We're pretty shielded because it's kind of like a bunker back there, and especially I guess at one point the home side was the front, and then per request of somebody, I can't remember who, they moved it to the back. But you're pretty covered from the wind. The benches now are heated. Jackets, there's heaters, like you name it. We're in our little cocoon down there. And as soon as like you hit the gate and the wind, like you can talk to Byron about how the wind flows through the stadium. It's like if it's blowing out to center, it's blowing actually like at his back. It's like I don't know how all the effects work, but you hit that gate once you get on the dirt and the temperature drops like 20 degrees, like instantly. And wow. So you're feeling that. So it's the initial shock of like, oh my God, okay, this is real. And then to that point, like you're pretty sedentary, like you can move around, whatever, but till you really get a blood flow, sweat going, that like your hands are purple or white, whatever, you're trying to throw a baseball and like it's throbbing sometimes. You can't feel your fingertips, and you're just like, all right, I guess I'm going to figure it out once I get on the mound because it ain't happening yet. And so it's definitely for a reliever. It's, granted it's one inning, but if you can't get it right quickly, like that inning goes south very fast. And then, then the next thing you're in the dugout, like what happened?
Yeah. Like how long, can you adjust to it? Can the second time out, you've experienced it once before? Like, does that change things that you have gone through it?
Yeah, you try to move around a lot. Like I was big on, whenever we'd get there for opening day, like I would go out to play catch in a t-shirt. Like I may have pants on, but like go as little clothing as possible just to like introduce it to your body. Cause you've been in Florida, like, not anything remotely close. And so there's only so many ways to do it. And you'll see a lot of guys do that. It's kind of like, granted the NFL, it's scare tactics, guys are running around without their shirts on, but they're also kind of shocking the body. It's like, hey, look, this is what we're going to be in, and get yourself used to it. But yeah, you settle in, and I won't say it's an advantage for anybody because, you ask any of the hitters, they don't want to hit. Like, it's just simple. You get jammed, you hit one off the end, you feel it for 3 weeks. And so, to that point, like, you can get used to it. Your body gets acclimated, but you can't ever get hot. Like, it's just never going to happen.
Junior Caminero, I thought.
And to that point, like, for fans, you're just sitting there like a popsicle, drinking $2 beer. It's the only way to survive.
Yeah. No, Junior Caminero on the Friday on the opener, his body language said he wanted no part of being there. And this is like one of the biggest badasses in baseball, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, he golfed that home run out against Sim yesterday. The pitch was like, I think Matthew Leach from MLB.com said that it was like the third lowest pitch that they have tracked since Stat Tracker is in that was hit out, and he hit it in the second deck. So we know that guy is like just a general badass. And he had 2 errors on Friday, and you could tell he wanted no part of being there. Like, his body was tensed. It's a big man. Like, there's a lot of parts to get going. And
cold is real.
Yeah. You can see it, and you can see guys experience it for the first time. And, like, Sunday, there was actually sun out, and it was 47. And it was, like, still windy, not fun. But at least there was sunshine, and guys were acting like it was the greatest day ever. And it's like, it just tells you what guys endure as they go through this.
Absolutely.
Amid all this losing in recent years and all the stuff we've talked about today, a cool thing has also been happening, and it was commemorated this weekend in the locker room, Dan. Byron Buxton hitting 10 years of service time, all of them with the Twins. And by all accounts, seems to be somebody who, despite all of this, enjoys being here and wants to stay here, which I never understand that when we, Kevin Garnett was kind of like that too, the athlete who's not from here, but for some reason loyal despite struggles on the field. But Tyler, you came up with him basically, right?
Yeah, we were same draft class. So I played at every level, saw everything. And then unfortunately for me, I got very used to him. So when I got called up, and we would miss each other, things like that, I'm like, man, I could really use Buck in center field right now, he's I guess it was yesterday, it was officially 10 years, which is crazy back on now, from, fighting. I remember Tommy Watkins having to escort him to the bus because fans were like waving bats, trying to get him signed and things like that. We're like leaving the field. I've never seen this before. I'm like, we're baseball players. Like, who cares? And it was my first like intro to like, this is what being a prospect is. And it was like just literally people waving full-size baseball bats like over our heads, trying to get him to sign. And Tommy's yelling at people. Yeah, it was in Beloit, and there was nowhere to like hide. Like, we had to walk through the stadium to get to our locker room. And so they pulled up the bus, I don't know, 20 yards away. And it's just a wall of people just screaming, yelling. And I'm just like, what in the hell is going on here?
The Beatles.
Yeah, literally, it's like, this is kind of cool. Like, I'm glad it's not me having to deal with that. But, it's pretty neat. And like, to your point, doing it with one team I think that's something that guys hold, close to their hearts. It's something, the team that drafted you and getting to spend your whole career there, it's something that doesn't happen for everybody. That it's not, a lot of guys wish they probably could have done that.
Where's your service time currently at right now?
I got like 6 and change.
Okay.
This is backed on one with Chicago somewhere in there.
So this is, so Buck is the first guy, and there's going to be 3 this year with the Twins. Taylor Rogers could be later this month. I think it's when we get to New York. Josh Bell is some point later this season too.
Okay.
So Taylor gave a speech yesterday, and one of the parts was, everybody kind of assumed when Buck got drafted he would be a 10-year guy, that this was going to be that guy that could do it. And he said, but just because we all assumed it, I didn't want it to get lost, and I think we needed to recognize this the way we have. How many times in your career do you remember guys getting, and this is something that's a recent phenomenon, probably in the last 5-10 years, where I feel like players have recognized that getting there is such a big deal, where it's a huge, 2 years ago, Christian Vasquez, we were in Texas, his wife hired, it wasn't a salsa band, it was something close to that. and they played in the clubhouse, and it was incredible. Like, they played in the clubhouse for like 20 minutes. It was the biggest party, and the Twins, they won that game. But Vosky was like walking around grinning ear to ear, and it does feel like now players are recognizing it more. Taylor said that out of the 24,000 in Major League history, like 1,700, it's 7%, whatever that is, have reached 10 years. And so now guys are recognizing it, and we have these great celebrations. Buck got a Rolex. There's painting. There was a bottle of champagne signed by all his teammates. But like, how many guys do you remember, and what do you think it means to the individual player just to achieve that?
It's huge. That's what, at the time, I want to say the number was in like the mid 19,000s when I first remember hearing.
Yeah.
I remember I want to say it was Matt Belisle did it for Phil Hughes.
Okay.
I think was one of the first ones I remember seeing. And it was one, you start thinking about the numbers, because there's only, however many thousand players ever.
And still doesn't even fill half a stadium.
Right. Wouldn't fill an entire stadium, the numbers that have ever played. And of those, it's the 1,700 total.
Roughly whatever 7% is. It's somewhere around there. Yeah.
And so it's something, you see guys play forever, but like, guys don't get to actual 10 years of service time. Like, guys will play for parts of 13 years and they bounce around at minors and do that, and the journeyman types, whatever. But to get to 10, that is the goal. That's the pension. That's all the things. But it's a club within the game. It's not a Hall of Fame or your number getting retired. It's just like, hey, you did this for 10 years, like, period. And in irony, when I first get to Minnesota, we got all these guys with 20 years that are just hanging around the clubhouse. It was Eddie and LaTroy and Torrey and Molly, like all these guys that played forever. And so we get drafted. We're like, oh, we get to play for 15 years. Like, it's not a big deal. In hindsight, it's not that easy. But it's pretty special. And, Raj is coming up. I was actually talking with Presley. We're trying to get something, maybe order something to surprise him with. So, it's pretty special for everybody that it happens for. It's a unique club.
Yeah, and also, by the way, belated congratulations to Jack Black and Jack White. They're part of the 5-timer Saturday Night Live club after this Saturday. So they beat Buck by one day.
An equally prestigious club.
4 games against Detroit this week, which is not good news for a team that struggles against left-handed pitching. But
they get 2 lefties in these 4 games.
The best.
Yes, 2 of the best. 2-time defending Cy Young winner. Is that right? Skubal?
Yeah.
He's
sick.
on Tuesday. Framber Valdez on Wednesday. 3 640 starts. That will make Tyler happy. And then the getaway game on Thursday before they head out on the road. Dan, anything you're looking for in this Detroit series here?
Just for the bats to keep getting there and waking up. Again, it's not going to go on forever. And April is the worst time to hit. And fortunately, the weather for these, it might rain a little, but I think it's supposed to be warmer in general for the next 4 days. That's good. Still going to be crappy conditions. And like your point, you mentioned the pitching that they're going to face. There's a lot of work to be done. Play competitive. They need to figure it out, because Sim was amazing on Sunday. That strikeout of Yandy Diaz, who is one of the toughest hitters to face in baseball, 1st and 3rd, 2 outs in the 5th inning, and Jeffers with the challenge and getting the overturn.
The Blake Green one.
Yeah, the tiniest piece of the ball hit the zone, but that was a great performance by Sim, and it gets lost because obviously they don't lose it within. They know that he's pitched 11 2/3 great innings so far this season, but a win next to your name would be better, and or a team win next to his name. Can't let those things happen. And also, I want to see what Mick Abel does. I think he's got the Thursday start. This might be the best conditions he will have pitched in. First time being the back end of the piggyback, and then the Saturday night. Now, look, those are not optimal conditions, and it's a young guy, so I do think there's something there that you have to at least take that context in consideration. Also, he needs to not bury 2-strike curveballs and hit guys in the feet. But I think the goods are there, so I want to see that outing on Thursday for sure.
Yeah, I think him settling in. He hasn't looked comfortable to me yet. Watching him, it's spraying it a little bit, things like that. Like I said, that's could be cold weather. Like we don't know. We're not up close. Like his hands could be purple, like trying to get some sort of grip on a baseball. It's there's a lot going on that field, especially when the game gets going quick. So get a good settle in. Going to be a good gut check series. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, right on. And we will be back with you before that series is over at some point, probably on Wednesday. But until then, thanks very much for listening. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button. Appreciate you sticking around with us. And we will catch you next time on Twin Cities Territory.
See ya.